welcome to yet another exciting theme on epistemology. This is a paper that has been floated in the NEP system in our Delhi University syllabus, 6th semester, and it is DSC 18, but largely we would be referring to and talking not necessarily about the syllabus, but we would definitely go beyond. Now, the very theme of today's topic is epistemology. We would be trying to understand what is epistemology, how is epistemology distinct from doxology, how did this term epistemology come up from the term episteme, who have been the classical thinkers who have been responsible for coming up with epistemology, how is epistemology vis-a-vis the Gettier Problem, the GTB, and other such related debates have taken a shape today. Now, to begin with, we must talk about Duncan Pritchard's work, What is this thing called philosophy, which serves as a comprehensive introduction to the philosophy field of philosophy using a question-led approach to explore its core themes and methods. By now, all of us are well versed that as students of philosophy, we are more inclined towards the questions per se over answers. And this module was given to us right from the classical Greek thought like Socrates, Plato, and others. Of course, the same trend is seen even in the Oriental traditions of, say, the Upanishadic thought process, where question-led approaches have been one of the key methodologies in aspiring or inquiring about knowledge. Now, Duncan Pritchard's book, What is this thing called philosophy? It emphasizes the fundamental role in examining general and abstract questions that underpin specific areas of study such as science, ethics, art, and religion. If we are to understand the key philosophical insights of this book, we would definitely say maybe number one could be the definition and scope of philosophy has been elucidated. Philosophy is described here as the love of wisdom from its Greek roots and is inherently broad, tackling questions that transcend specialized academic disciplines. For example, while scientists may study the mechanisms of cognition, philosophers explore the very nature and possibility of knowledge itself. Philosophy as a foundational inquiry is yet another key philosophical takeaway from this work. This particular book illustrates how philosophy's role in addressing questions that cannot be resolved through empirical methods alone. It delves into timeless issues like the nature of knowledge, epistemology, the structure of reality, metaphysics, and the essence of moral and aesthetic judgments. 3. Integration of disciplines. Pritchard emphasizes the historical connection between philosophy and other fields like science and mathematics. The development of specialized disciplines gradually detached empirical questions from philosophical inquiry, but philosophy remains crucial for examining the assumptions and implications underlying these fields. 4. Broad topics explored. This book is structured to provide accessible entries into major philosophical areas such as ethics, which comprises of meta-ethics, normative ethics, applied ethics, aesthetics, which is again the nature of art and aesthetic judgment, political philosophy, which is to do with freedom, justice, philosophy of mind, science, and religion. Metaphysical questions about the structure of the world further are some of the topics explored in this work. 5th, philosophy's value for students. Aimed at those new to the subject, the text features clear explanations and practical advice for engaging with philosophical debates, making it an essential resource for both student enthusiasts and educators. Supplementary online tools enhances its accessibility. In a sense, Beecher presents philosophy as a dynamic, interdisciplinary field that interrogates the fundamental questions of existence, knowledge, and value. It remains relevant by offering a framework for understanding and challenging our assumptions about the world and our place within it. Now, Duncan Pritchard's work, which we had just about mentioned, what is this thing called philosophy, has been a structured and accessible introduction to philosophy, and this book has been aimed primarily at beginners. The book organizes philosophy into several core branches, providing a detailed exploration of major philosophical questions and methods. If we see, we find that the definition and scope of philosophy there is presented as an inquiry into fundamental questions about reality, knowledge, values, and reason. Unlike specialized sciences, it addresses abstract and universal concerns such as what can we know and how, which is under the domain of epistemology. Questions such as what is the nature of reality comes under metaphysics. What is morally right or wrong under ethics. What constitutes beauty or art is under aesthetics. Does life have meaning comes largely under philosophy of life. So Pritchard emphasizes that philosophy seeks clarity and coherence in answering these questions and further questioning the answers, often challenging assumptions taken for granted in everyday life. Second, the major areas explored in this book is divided into sections addressing core philosophical disciplines, with each chapter posing and addressing key questions. Epistemology, for example, explores the nature, limits, and value of knowledge. Under epistemology, again, we see one considers skeptical challenges, something like can we truly know anything? It examines justification, evidence, and belief. Under metaphysics, questions about the fundamental structure of reality, such as is reality material or dualistic? Do we have free will or is everything determined? Ethics is divided into meta-ethics, where the nature of moral values and judgments are broadly discussed. Then we also have under ethics normative ethics, where principles guiding right and right action are being discussed, such as utilitarianism, deontology, and others. We also have applied ethics, where ethical dilemmas in practical contexts like healthcare or climate change are addressed. Under aesthetics, we have departments that investigate the nature of art and beauty. Also, it discusses the role of emotional and sensory responses in aesthetic appreciation. We also have philosophy of religion, where questions about the existence and nature of God is addresses faith, reason, and the problem of evil. We also have philosophy of science, where one considers the reliability of scientific models, explores realism versus anti-realism in scientific theories. Political philosophy examines concepts of justice, freedom, and global ethics. Also, it engages with contemporary issues like equality and human rights. Also, under philosophy of mind, questions on consciousness, perception, and emotions are discussed. It engages with debates on the mind-body problem and artificial intelligence, the meaning of life, explores existential questions like, must life have a transcendent purpose to be meaningful? Can life have meaning in a physical, finite world? Now, if we talk about the pedagogical approach, we see that in Pritchard's work, it is designed as a gateway to philosophy featuring a clear structure. Each chapter begins with a guiding question, followed by detailed discussion and case studies. Interactive elements. It includes thought experiments, examples, and exercises to provoke critical thinking. Supplementary tools. Online resources such as quizzes, flashcards, and essay questions make it an excellent learning tool. The book emphasizes philosophy's relevance in everyday life, teaching critical thinking, problem solving, and the ability to navigate complex ethical and existential issues. It also highlights philosophy's role in other disciplines, providing conceptual clarity and addressing foundational questions. Now that the background of the primary work has been outlined, we can start with our key theme, and that is epistemology. We must understand that the term epistemology is derived from the Greek word episteme. Episteme means to know or to pursue. So, what is knowing or what is knowledge? And here comes the primary distinction from doxology. Doxology is again a term which comes from the Greek word doxa, which means dogmatic. And all that we have to do with dogmatic faith, dogmatic belief is never considered epistemic. As such, one must be very clear when we are dealing with epistemology that we are talking about knowledge and not just doxology. So, what is epistemology then? Epistemology is a core branch of philosophy that studies the nature, sources, limits, and validity of knowledge. It seeks to answer fundamental questions such as what is knowledge? How do we acquire it? Can we truly know anything? And if so, to what extent? This branch of philosophy dives into the mechanisms of how humans perceive, understand, and justify beliefs about the world. To begin with, let's start with some of the key concepts that we often find in epistemology. Number one, knowledge versus belief. One of the most fundamental distinctions in epistemology is between knowledge and belief. Knowledge is traditionally defined as justified true belief, JTB, a belief that is not only true but also backed by adequate justification or evidence. This definition has been widely debated and expanded upon over centuries. Number two, sources of knowledge. Epistemology examines where knowledge comes from. The primary sources include perception, which is knowledge through sensory experiences such as seeing, hearing, and so on. Reason, knowledge derived from logical reasoning and deduction. Introspection, knowledge through internal awareness such as thoughts, emotions. And testimony, where or which means knowledge gained from others' statements and accounts. Now, let us see the various types of knowledge. There are different types of knowledge studied in epistemology, and we can clearly outline at least four. First, a priori knowledge. A priori knowledge that is independent of experience, which is innate, which is inborn. For example, the mathematical truths that comes to us after a bit of polishing. A posteriori knowledge. Knowledge that depends on experience, for example, scientific observations. 3. Propositional knowledge. Knowledge of facts or propositions, like knowing that the snow is white is a propositional knowledge. The fourth is also something called as the procedural knowledge. Knowledge of how. Knowing, for example, how to ride a vehicle, how to ride a bike. So we see that the types of knowledge under epistemology can be divided into 4 kinds: a priori, a posteriori, propositional, and procedural. Now, let us also come to a significant aspect of epistemology, and that is skepticism. Skepticism is the position that we cannot have certain knowledge about the world. Epistemological skeptics question whether anything can truly be known, given that our senses and reasoning might be flawed. Famous skeptics like René Descartes used radical doubt as a method to explore the certainty of knowledge. However, we must also understand that Descartes is also known as a methodological doubter, for he comes up with a clear and distinct methodological schema. Fifth, justification. To consider a belief as knowledge, it must be justified. Epistemologists debate what counts as proper justification, with theories like foundationalism, which argues that certain foundational beliefs support other beliefs, and coherentism, which sees knowledge as a web of beliefs that support each other coherently. 6. The truth. Truth is yet another central concern in epistemology. Philosophers discuss the nature of truth and how we can claim that something is true. Common theories include, firstly, correspondence theory of truth, where truth is when a statement corresponds to reality. Coherence theory, where truth is based on a statement's coherence with other beliefs. Pragmatic theory, where truth is based on whether a belief is practically useful. Now that we have had a clear introduction of the nuances of epistemology, we must also understand why epistemology matters. Epistemology is essential because it underpins almost all human inquiry and intellectual activities. Our confidence in scientific, ethical, and everyday claims is rooted in epistemological questions. By understanding epistemology, we gain insights into, for example, how scientific knowledge is validated and why scientific theories evolve. Further, we also gain insights into questions or thought process like the reliability of sources of knowledge, especially in the digital age where misinformation is prevalent. Personal beliefs and biases, helping us critically evaluate our assumptions and make informed decisions. In short, why epistemology matters? It matters because it is the foundation of how we navigate and make sense of the world, influencing disciplines from science and law to religion and personal philosophy. Now we come to the epic part of epistemology, when we have been talking about the nuances of epistemology, and this is where we introduce the Gettier Problem. The Gettier Problem is a landmark issue in epistemology that challenges the traditional definition of knowledge as justified true belief, or JTB. It was introduced by philosopher Edmund Gettier in his 1963 paper, Is Justified True Belief Knowledge? And it has since sparked extensive debates and re-evolution in the field of epistemology. First, the traditional definition of knowledge, JTB. For centuries, philosophers defined knowledge as justified true belief. According to this view, in order for someone to know something, 3 conditions must be met. And which are these conditions? First, belief. The person must believe the proposition. Truth. The proposition must be a true proposition. 3. Justification. The person must have sufficient justification or evidence for the belief. If all the 3 conditions are satisfied, the belief is traditionally considered knowledge. The Gettier Problem. Edmund Gettier presented cases where a person holds a belief that is true and justified, yet intuitively we would not consider it to be genuine knowledge. These cases showed that it is possible to have a justified true belief without actually having knowledge, thus challenging the adequacy of the JTB definition. One of the Gettier's examples goes as follows. Suppose Smith has strong evidence to believe the statement, "Jones will get the job," and Jones has 10 coins in his pocket. Smith deduces from this that the person who will get the job has 10 coins in their pocket. As it turns out, Smith is wrong about Jones getting the job. Instead, Smith himself gets the job. Coincidentally, Smith also has 10 coins in his pocket, meaning the statement, "the person who will get the job has 10 coins in the pocket," turns out to be true. In this case, Smith's belief is true, for the person who gets the job does have 10 coins. It is justified since Smith had good reasons to believe these based on his evidence about Jones. However, Smith's belief seems to be true merely by coincidence rather than because he genuinely knew who would get the job. Therefore, even though Smith has a justified true belief, we hesitate to call this knowledge. So, what are the implications of the Gettier problem? The Gettier problem demonstrated that the traditional JTB definition was insufficient because it failed to account for cases of accidentally true beliefs that met all three criteria. Philosophers responded with various approaches to address the issue. First, adding a fourth condition. Some philosophers proposed adding a fourth condition to JTB, often related to removing luck or coincidence from the equation. One example is the no false lemmas approach, which suggests that for knowledge, the reasoning leading to the belief must not rely on any false assumptions. 2. Reliabilism. Reliabilism argues that knowledge depends on whether the belief was produced by a reliable process. For instance, beliefs formed through perception, memory, and logical reasoning are generally considered reliable, reducing the chance of Gettier-like cases. 3. Virtue epistemology. This approach holds that knowledge results from intellectual virtues such as careful observation and reasoning. According to virtue epistemologists, if a belief is the product of a reliable intellectual process, it is more likely to count as genuine knowledge. 4. Contextualism. Contextualism suggests that the standards for knowledge vary depending on the context. In some situations, justification may suffice, while in others, higher standards are required to avoid Gettier problems. So, the question that we are facing now is why the Gettier problem matters. The Gettier problem is significant because it reveals complexities in how we define and understand knowledge. It highlights that knowledge is not just about having true beliefs that are justified, but that something deeper, often involving the avoidance of luck or coincidence, is required. Addressing the Gettier problem has led epistemologists to refine and redefine our understanding of knowledge, making it a central puzzle in epistemology to this day. We will be further discussing Duncan Pritchard's work, What is this thing called knowledge? Now that we have given a brief about JTB, the problems that or the Gettier problem faces, and some of the possible suggestions. Thank you.